to watch.
Welcome everyone to the MMA Depressed Us with me, Zane Simon, and my co-hosts Connor Rebish and Phil McKenzie. We are here once again in a off UFC week. No UFC events, so we got to watch bad fights. That's all there is to it. Those are the rules. We didn't make them up, and we are merely carried upon the river of MMA.
No, don't stop. Keep going.
God damn it!
The metaphor's out there.
It's out there. We're carried on the river of the MMA philosophy. I don't know.
You have accurately summarized the process of what this show is all about.
I think that is really a better...
When you expect things to go somewhere and they just don't.
Yeah.
That's a better summary than you could have actually offered if you'd come up with a clever metaphor. That worked perfectly.
I was so on board. I'm like, I'm gonna take this wherever. I'm gonna go wherever this takes me. I don't have something set up. I'm just gonna go with it. And then I got halfway there, like, this isn't taking me anywhere.
You also had me pointing out that it was clearly going nowhere, so I'm sure that helped.
Yeah, that helped too.
Okay.
Anyway,
welcome to the MMA Depressed Us, a boat adrift on a sea of ...
So this week, to meet our needs, we are watching our main event, our disappointing fight that we'll be watching at the end of all this is Gilbert Melendez versus Jorge Masvidal from Strikeforce. Melendez versus Masvidal. Basically from the time when Melendez was like the lightweight king in Strikeforce. And Masvidal was supposed to be, after Josh Thompson, Masvidal was going to be the next great lightweight challenger. And their fight was notably not memorable. And before that, we'll be watching is our bad fight, that all-time middleweight classic, John Howard versus Uriah Hall. All the high fives, all the explosiveness, all the athleticism, all of the not hitting each other that you can shake a stick at.
Can't wait.
And to start things out, we're watching a fight that none of us have seen, but with a fighter that all of us trust to be in the best kind of bad fights. And that is Emanuel Newton versus Andre Moussey at WEC 11. It's one of the very earliest fights in Newton's career, but the hardcore kid, you gotta love him. He's always a fan favorite of weirdo fight fans, and that's us. So, as always, you can follow along with us on Fight Pass. We're starting every video right at the beginning. No tracking or anything of that, and you don't have to skip to a certain point or anything. Just start it with us. I'll count you into the video. 3, 2, 1, go countdown. And Connor will attempt to tell you when round one starts in case you're watching the fight on any other media. We will often be talking over him at the time, and he will often tell you totally the wrong time that the round is about to start, and it rarely works out like we planned.
It's rarely my fault, though, Zane, okay? I'm always trying my best. I want that to be known.
I don't see how trying your best and not your fault are necessarily divided.
It's the referees. Some of them wait 20 seconds after the time they say it's about to start. Some of them wait 3 seconds. Okay, it's not up to me.
Are you going to be rushing or are you going to be dragging?
Right.
Or are you going to be on my time?
For guys wearing like black t-shirts, okay, they are really erratic with their timing. I would have expected better.
I'm just saying, you can be trying your best and it can still be your fault.
Okay, Zane. All right. We'll see whose fault it is when I fuck it up this time.
Okay. On that note, we should actually get going with this because we've wasted enough time already. So let's kick off our first fight from WEC 11, Emanuel Newton versus Andre Moussey. Starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
All 3 videos are running smoothly. Things are off to a great start.
Yeah. And there's an exceptionally young and in shape looking Newton.
Yeah, that's spooky.
Isn't it?
Like,
for a dude who kind of ended up by the end of his career, just kind of being like sort of it's just like a plane of a person.
Yeah. He's got he was like kind of a spindly-legged football by like American standards, not like
his
British
face looks
standards,
very
like,
youthful too. I mean, he looks young.
Yeah. It's
this is shocking.
and we really have no idea what to expect from him here because he had like a traditional. Was it Taekwondo or was it karate? He had I can't remember now. I've talked to him a couple times, and so it's to my shame that I can't remember. But he had a very traditional martial arts background, black belt, all that kind of thing, and that he was bringing with him into MMA, wearing his tie shorts here. So, and it always made his fights really weird.
I feel like there was a brief period in MMA where that was like a specific affectation. First round's about to begin here. Starts. Nah. See, it's not my fault, It's not my fault. Now.
Just out of the corner of the referee hand slap.
I miss tie trunks being like an affectation of people who had nothing to do with Muay Thai.
Have we mentioned the jinkoed up new metal ref here?
Yeah,
like
I was gonna...
dude wearing like these extra wide leg jeans and two long sleeve shirts, one over the other.
I was thinking he looks like a member of the MMA media from a particular time point rather than any of the various clades of referee that we've seen evolve over the years.
He looks like the kind of dude who legitimately buys tickets to a Stained concert, you know?
Emanuel Newton just hardcore dancing his way out of the clinch.
Yeah. And just a violent knees from the clinch. Like, I haven't seen him throw one weird... Well, he's thrown some kicks, but they haven't been extra weird.
The weirdness of the kicks is there, but you can tell he's trying not to be weird at this point.
Okay, there's a little roll. There's a roll. There's our first little hint of Emanuel Newton as we know him.
He still does a strange thing. Like the first two low kicks he landed, he didn't follow through at all. There's like this weird straight-legged slapping kick to the leg. That did look very Emanuel Newton.
Emanuel Newton out here answering the question, what if Keith Jardine only threw spinning stuff?
I love guys like Newton and Jardine, though. Like,
dude, I do too.
Yeah.
Oh, just
there we go. That's like just that approach where he just kind of used the rotational thing of
arms.
That was some good.
Too.
That was like Manning Newton.
It's lever kickboxing. He likes that stuff, like same leg, same hand, both attack one after the other. That's a very karate thing. I mean, Machida does that. He just makes it look a lot prettier than Emanuel Newton does.
All right, now we're getting some unfortunate. Yes, there we go. Stop clinching. Should be
front kick and then gets punched very hard.
Oh, meanwhile, he's fighting a dude who just looks like he's basically steroids and tight trunks.
Yeah.
Does Emanuel Newton have more head movement now? I'm having trouble remembering if he's still this hittable.
I think
he does weird stuff.
Yeah.
There's his head moves.
Like sometimes as the product of a strange bestial dance.
Yeah.
Other times as a form of defense.
You can always tell the dudes whose physique is like really modified clearly by the fact that they look like they should not be anywhere near the size they are.
Yeah, it's something we rarely see looking back on these old shows, right? You're just like, people don't look like that anymore.
You're clearly a 170-pound man who weighs 260 pounds, all muscle.
Yeah.
I'm thoroughly being reminded why we love Emanuel Newton. All like charging flurries and then just picking up some guy from a body lock and slamming him. Meanwhile, Dwayne, our referee, is
fitness too. Like at his best, Emanuel Newton's always been a well-conditioned fighter.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen Oz?
The
Oz?
TV show?
TV show.
Yeah. The first prestige
the referee.
TV show.
Yeah, the referee reminds me kind of the warden, just like totally like on his day off, where he gets to dress up as in his best new metal gear and go out and ref fights.
Emanuel Newton always looks so mad, doesn't he?
Yeah,
He does.
A lot of rage in his heart.
it's a great thing. Oh, that was awesome. Wait a minute, are you guys at the same point as I am?
I don't know.
Did you see?
He's being
the
guillotined.
elevation
lovely.
there? Okay.
Yeah.
You might have
Did
to
I jump
pause
ahead
for 2
somehow?
seconds to get back in line.
You're just like 2 seconds ahead. That was a very nice butterfly sweep there.
It was.
I mean, the guy was like completely giving it, so over aggressive, but he knew what to do.
The guy's turning into Robbie Lawler as he gets more beaten up. Like
We have a little
inflated Robbie Lawler. He is. He really is.
just a Robbie Lawler balloon animal.
we had a we had a stare down between the Robbie Lawler balloon and Emanuel Newton, where Robbie Lawler balloon was sitting on his butt and Newton was standing just looking at him for like a full 5 seconds. That was good. That was good. Yeah, Robbie Lawler is tired.
Mm.
I think this is really Robert Lawler.
Yeah,
and he's looking very deflated after the first
a
round.
very enthusiastic ring girl. Am I still ahead?
I think you might be.
Must be. I'm waiting for the ring girl.
Pause in a couple of seconds.
Oh wow, that's really enthusiastic. Yeah, you're still
She
ahead.
does a full spin and twerks for that side of the crowd. Oh my god, she was. Isn't that inappropriate? You show up for an event and it's just some woman just clapping her ass in front of you.
Yes, Connor, that's deep.
Yes, Connor, exactly.
That feels strange.
Connor's in a strip club. What is this?
I forgot. All like the first 20 WEC events were surely in a strip club somewhere.
I'm sure. I love how much more like everybody involved in this looks either exhausted or bored other than Emanuel Newton and the ring girl. Like all the crowd's just like
she came out, she tried her best to get these apes riled up for the start of round 2, and they just don't care. Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess Robert Lawler is not as he's not gonna have the 5th round powers of his counterpart.
No.
Robert Lawler is so good.
Robert Lawler.
It's just a good sounding name. Oh boy.
Man, he's tired.
You can always tell somebody who's really tired and just not good at fighting when they manage to check a kick and still get hit by the kick. Like he lifts his leg up and it has his leg up while somebody kicks him full force in the leg. It's like if Mark Kerr got transported a decade forward and didn't know how to wrestle.
Yeah, this guy probably would have been a goddamn champ 10 years before this.
Yeah.
Just being a roided out
got
freak.
the kind of classic MMA training that made stars of the early UFC fighters.
Yes. That is actually
the
not
dude
a
who
joke.
bench presses his way through fight camps.
Yes.
Oh dear.
Oh, something good's happening. I like when Phil's slightly ahead.
Oh, he pulled guard.
Was he pulling guard or did he just fall over?
I think he just fell.
The ref's got to adjust his jinkos there.
Oh, he's really struggling to get back to his feet.
He really is.
How is this going to go on for this long?
I know, there's still so much left to this video.
This was
something we got to face. Like Emanuel Newton became more offensively potent over time.
You know what else is also awesome I can say about this? Is that we're so zoomed in, we only get to see his reactions. Like we don't get to see any of the actual fight happening anymore.
Who directed this shit show? Like half of this fight is just like all we get to see is the upper body of one of the guys.
Ooh, this is also I didn't even realize this is square cage WEC.
Oh, nice.
Pre-blue gloves even.
Yeah, this is actually before, like when we say every WEC event was awesome,
Yeah,
we
okay.
actually
Yeah.
don't mean this era. We
Yeah.
mean the WEC that we're actually familiar with the nice deep blue cage and the blue gloves.
Guy just cocked his leg at Emanuel Newton. It's like supposed to
he
be a
was
knee to the
thinking-
head, but it's just like,
Yeah.
okay, hey, we're done.
The same tactics that work so well in like women's bantamweight are working here. Like he's just tired and he's just laying on Emanuel Newton. He's not, even though he can't grip the fence, he's still having the same success that Tank Abbott had, just using his weight against Scott Ferozzo.
Yeah.
Just laying on Emanuel Newton upright.
So wait a minute, where are you guys? They
We're at the
just had a
part where they
reset
just
there.
came back from the break after Newton.
Yeah, okay.
I think we're all right around the same
Yeah.
moment right now.
That's the thing, like, it was one of those ones where I don't think they would have stopped it normally to fix its gloves, but then they were both just not interested in it for the time being. So it's like, oh yeah, why not?
It really was the introduction of the spinning back fist, which made Emanuel Newton even remotely capable of knocking someone out.
You feel like you can see him like primed for it, but he doesn't know how to throw it yet. So it's just like the body movement is there for like the sway, but there's nothing to come after it. So
I mean, other fighters would put a left hook in there at some point, a punch other than the right hand over and over. But for Emanuel Newton, that punches the spinning back fist, and it doesn't seem like it's part of his game at this point.
No spinning back fist and no wheel kicks.
Yeah, that's the kicks still look awkward and stiff, but they aren't spinning.
Yep.
Where does the blood come from? Is it
I think maybe a cut on Newton's
just
mouth?
getting punctured,
or is it
like,
partially it's
is he
his
just-
nose? I think that dude's nose is busted.
It
I
could
think
just be pinhole punctures.
I think it's just out of sweat.
Yeah.
So his body is just a balloon, just balloons full of blood, and now they're just leaking to cool him down.
Yep. We're just having a long, depressing shot of him just being the tiredest man alive.
Looking like he might puke, but not puking.
Apparently, his corner's not allowed to come in the cage between rounds.
I don't think that was a round break.
I'm not sure what's going on.
I think it was.
I have no idea.
It had to be.
Like, the way Emanuel Newton closes distance is amazing. It's just like
for a Gracie stomp.
Throw as many limbs in the air as possible in order to cover your way in. Like, just have as many up. If he could jump with, like, I feel like if he spent eternity fighting, his greatest like thing that he'd work on would be the ability to jump at someone, like literally holding all four of his like both his fists and his feet out at the same time. That'd be the final evolution of the Newton fighting style.
He's getting real weary now.
So he's bleeding badly too, out of his mouth, I think. Newton.
Yeah.
You can see it's going all over his arm. Oh man. This is way too close of a view for cage fighting. Like this is so wet and like
it's
gruesome.
It's applying a weird kind of like just bleak veritas to the whole thing. Like that I'm not sure I'm here for. Like,
suddenly I'm getting a window into like who these two men are and why they're doing this, and I don't want that.
Yeah.
Like it's just a close up. They had like a 30-second close up of just like blood coming out of Newton's mouth while he clings to this man. I'm just like, man, is that really?
Yeah. It's getting all Mickey Rourke the wrestler.
Now there's a round break.
What was
I don't know what that other thing was.
Turning a fight of an older organization on mute really is one of the most confusing experiences you can have on the internet. Like, what is happening? What was happening before? Did someone get hit low, or
I don't know?
Were they checking Newton's cut and the cameraman just decided to show us not the guy who was actually the reason for the break?
I think so.
They're also just showing one dude.
Yeah, they're
Like,
just focused on him,
Just
getting a
focused, like
sponge
right
bath.
on him, just getting sponged and sponged and.
It
sponged
appears
a bit
they have
more.
one camera. I swear I've seen other camera posts in the video, but I don't think we actually changed camera angles. It's just been this one guy panning and constantly zooming in way too close. It's weird. It's like a very immediate kind of filming for this event because it does feel like we're just standing on top of the cage looking way too
Hawaiian
close at
shirt, dude.
Yeah.
And
it.
Cameraman slipping off his stool for a moment there.
He's drunk. He's just lolling over.
The amount of attention and zoom, it almost feels like affection now for this fighter.
Yeah,
like he's only focusing on this guy. And he's really zoomed in, and it's now the lights go out.
Went out. All right, so we're nicely synced now. At least we know that.
Yeah.
What an incredible experimental film. A portrait of Robert Blum.
I'm feeling a little like, yeah. The portrait of Robert Blum. That's the. Just needs to be in black and white.
Yeah.
And like to occasionally have like silent movie placards coming up.
It just says in quotes, "I ache," and that's it. That's all we get. What's wrong with you, Robert Lawler?
Round the first.
Every single round is round the first too. This is round the first again. Jesus Christ. I do love an avant-garde Emanuel Newton fight.
Come on, third round, Robert Blawler.
Classic third round Robert Blawler here.
Yes, zooming on his face. This is who we're here to see.
Touch your head a bunch.
It does seem like the cameraman is clearly very interested in Rob Blawler.
Yeah.
He's like, even when we're not zoomed in on him, we are fixated on him.
It is like you only see
his affections have changed.
Only Emanuel
His affections have shifted. He suddenly realized Robert Blawler was losing the fight.
I will say this would be like a fascinating way to have more fights filmed for doing detailed tape study. Because like you notice there for a moment, like it's zoomed in on Emanuel Newton, and that's all you see, and then you see him close his eyes and shy away before the punch even comes into the screen. And it's like, if I were actually trying to break down footage on a fighter, that would be really helpful to have. But it's absurd watching a fight with that, where like you just see like, and then punch comes like whipping by the camera lens.
Yeah, kind of Pantera vulgar display of power cover, like as it just flies across the screen and hits him.
It's like Emanuel Newton's style hasn't really changed. He's like some vicious knees to the body.
Yeah. I think Robert Blawler wants out.
Blawler is tired.
Oh, it pulls guard.
To escape a guillotine, I think that's why he did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Newton is like the ultimate fighting as a video game type of character where like he hasn't changed his style at all. He's just added more moves.
Yeah.
It's like he just gets to a point.
He unlocked more moves as like he progressed.
He's always Emanuel Newton, but he's upgrading.
It's like when you play Mortal Kombat in career mode and like in like the story mode, and like as you go, you get to unlock more extras.
Yeah, you're always gonna move like Scorpion, but now you get the chain or whatever. And Emanuel Newton just doesn't have all of his moves yet.
By the time he's fighting Nikita Krylov, he's got like the goofy hat and like the star sunglasses and like the special shorts and
yeah, he's just too meat and potatoes to really like unleash the full weirdness of Emanuel Newton, but you can tell he wants to.
Like that front kick is definitely that's some pure Manny Newton right there.
Yep.
It's tricky though. Like the thing I like about Emanuel Newton, he's not fast at all, but he turns that into an advantage, like in the way that Carlos Condit would. It's like the telegraph becomes part of the style where you're like, okay, because his moves all look the same.
Yep.
Yeah, it's all like a hops. It's like he just hops into everything. It's like the hop is the opening stage for 4 different things.
Once he gets you waiting on him or trying to counter him, like you really are fighting his fight because you can time things, but you can't tell what the thing is.
Yep. And oftentimes, if you're moving slow enough, I remember when I used to do that when I was like practicing kickboxing more, where like it's just be like, I'm just going to show you that I'm going to kick you with my right leg, but half the time it'll be a leg kick, and the other half of the time it'll be a front kick that's just like right up the middle, and like you're going to have to pick one to block, and by the time I see you showing one, I can just pick the other.
It doesn't work flawlessly. Like this is. No. It's the main tenet of the Winklejohn style of kickboxing that I frequently complain about, but it is like it works for Emanuel Newton. It's tricky.
Yeah. It doesn't work flawlessly because if people just key off in general on your body moving, then they will always see you coming and can counter you immediately.
Yeah.
But
I think that's probably why he became so much more effective when he did just add more moves, because it's like.
Yeah,
you could time Emanuel Newton. Good luck figuring out what the hell he's doing. We're trying to come up with the right counter for it. It's just constantly dealing with the same brand of weirdness over and over.
Man, his ability to cover distance wasn't great in his prime, but like in this fight, he's literally just holding out his arms like a mummy, and then
both arms
just kicking his way, and then jump kicking his way in.
He's hockey fighting when he's punching. He's just like posting on Rob Lawler's chest and just punching away with one hand.
Yeah.
Boy, what a fight.
That was a good choice.
I learned so much about the content of Robert Lawler's soul over the course of this contest.
Yeah.
I learned so much about the depth of his eye. I mean, that is a man on steroids. Look at that fucking brow. That is not the brow of a Homo sapiens. That is a man who has injected some drugs.
Does Emanuel Newton ever like make physics jokes when he knocks people out? Has he ever like mass times acceleration equals newtons? That kind of thing? Like,
oh, you totally should. You totally should. Especially because for him it would always be like, it would be kind of physics, but it would be like pseudo science.
Like, then it would go off the other end, right?
Yeah. Metaphysics.
It would have some kind of
metaphysics.
Well, it would be like he'd have gotten super into like flat Earth stuff.
Oh.
I'm trying to think of a pun for like Isaac Newton, but I couldn't come up with anything. I was like, in my head, I was thinking if instead of hardcore music, Emanuel Newton really liked There Will Be Giants, you could say he was standing on the shoulders of There Will Be Giants, but I couldn't think of another angle.
Sadly not. What was I going to say? I can't remember. So, Manny Newton. Wait a minute, we don't get to see one. But it was Newton, right? Oh yeah. The one thing that everyone should watch when they have the time, if they haven't seen it, is the I Will Always Love You remix of Emanuel Newton King Mo. That is
that is choice.
Touching. It's the only recent MMA video that approaches it is Edmund Taverdian with My Heart Will Go On.
Oh yeah.
Which is also very touching and will move you.
All right. Well, let's be moved to start the next fight. John Howard versus Uriah Hall, because my God, I want to skip this already.
Yeah. I don't want to see this.
And we are starting in 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, man. This fight sucked.
It did.
We do remember this one clearly.
Like John Howard is one of those fighters who has rarely been in very fun fights that I just like. I don't enjoy watching him,
and he has that Muay Thai style. Like he comes out with like the headband thing and all that.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, power punching John Howard coming out. And it's like kind of at his best when he's wrestling. Like that's where John Howard tends to really do his best. Otherwise, he is a one punch at a time, rarely throw at all striker. And then he gets like one knockout every 3 years that has everybody like, oh, power killer coming back.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's one of those guys who is obviously like who hits really hard
Yep.
on the regional scene.
Yep.
And it would just be like rack up tons of KOs. And then there's just a baseline level of durability that just means like, oh yeah, you're just gonna like have to edge people out by landing not very many punches on them and out wrestling them. And your frame does not fit into any of the current UFC weight classes really. And because like when he fought like Tim Means, that was back down at welterweight, and Tim Means had come up from lightweight, and Tim Means was at a massive like, this is a good frame for MMA advantage over him. Like, you just looked at them and you were like, oh yeah, one of those guys came up from another weight class, did they? And the other one came down.
I'm not sure I could explain either, but I also have like an affection for John Howard. Just
because he's like, I don't get the impression, like, he's another one of those fighters. I just don't get the impression he could be much better than he is. Like,
yeah, you get the impression he's doing his best. Like he's endearing to watch, even when he's not.
Well,
really
and
exciting.
to his credit too, as boring as he can be at times, he does always seem to have like, hey, this is how I'm going to win this fight. Like, I'm going to throw a few big punches, and then I'm going to hit a takedown, and then I'm going to work from top control, and I'm going to try to do that like every single round. That is my plan.
He just also seems like a nice guy, which allowed him and Uriah Faber to suck themselves into a maelstrom of politeness. They just couldn't stop agreeing that they both liked each other. It's going to be amazing.
Uriah Hall, you mean, right?
Yeah, what did I say, Faber?
You did, which had me really confused for like 5 seconds.
Sorry, my bad. It happens to everyone.
Have you guys read the John Howard's Sean Al-Shatti Sean Al-Shatti piece about how he got diagnosed with autism?
No, I know he had, but I hadn't read. I can't remember if I actually went and read the article itself.
It is tremendous. Like Sean is, he's one of the best writers in MMA, and it's just phenomenal. And yes, will make you feel much more sympathetic about. And this is one of the issues with this fight is that it is a fight between two like guys who seem like pretty, like basically kind of pretty good dudes who then get slightly confused in their own ways by like why the world doesn't treat them.
Two very relatable guys, like very understandable.
Yeah. That's a better word.
Yeah,
like
Uriah Hall is ultra relatable, but also just totally like emotionally doing his own thing.
But he's like very open about it. So you're like, okay, I understand where he's coming from.
It's like you're wrong about a lot of things, but I get it. I get why you think that.
Yeah, I have a weird like thing when I watch Uriah Hall, because on the one hand, like he was a poster child for someone who wasn't as good as people said he was, just wasn't as good as people said he was, not like struggled to pull the trigger, but like literally just.
Well, he's a great poster child for the idea that athleticism really only does count for so much.
Yeah.
Like being an elite athlete is not the same thing as being an elite competitor.
Yeah, but on the other hand, he was someone who was just open with what he felt.
Yep.
And I always appreciate that, even when like if it's someone who's like, I like that about people like Kevin Lee and so on, that he'll just say it like he thinks it is, and I don't really care whether he thinks he's wrong or not. I'm just interested in what he has to say.
You know the thought process. It's like when Uriah Hall talks about his fight with Krzysztof Jotko, and he's like, I'm getting lit up, and I'm just like, this is fucking terrible. Why am I doing this? And at some point, I just had to kind of flip a switch of like, no, I've got to actually fight back now, because like this is awful.
Uriah Hall would be a tremendous character for like a Rocky type movie where you're like the unexpected guy gets called up. Like you could, in the same way that you could believe that Uriah Hall would not be ready for his universe's version of Apollo Creed, you could also look at him and believe that in the right moment he could definitely pull it off.
I'd pick him more for like a boxing anime.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, here we go. Round 1 begins in just mere seconds. Who knows how many seconds, but mere seconds. The round is about to begin. The ring girl is sitting down. The cameraman is still looking at her. Here we go. It begins now. So my new strategy is just to fill the whole space until the round actually starts with noise.
And starts immediately with Uriah Hall wrestling, because that's
I don't remember that at all.
Me neither.
That's interesting. Yeah, like I always said, like, and I'm not a Uriah Hall fanboy, who particularly, yeah, he's just a limit. But I always said, like, I think he could beat Luke Rockhold.
Sure.
Because I was just like, there's all the things that Luke Rockhold is good at are largely inaccessible in a Uriah Hall fight.
It's true.
I obviously wouldn't favor him. That's crazy. No. But if they fought, I would have been like.
That's what I'm saying. In like an underdog story, you could believe that Uriah Hall could get his shit together enough for just one night to do something like that.
Well,
he is very relatable.
Luke Rockhold, anyone who can find a point to throw a left hook in a fight has a reasonable chance of beating him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, any reasonably powerful kickboxer basically who doesn't rely solely on right hands.
Doesn't have to be the left hook. You don't think Uriah Hall could throw that kick Vitor through?
True. Yeah, or just a high kick. Yeah, I mean, something unexpected that comes out of Luke's baseline defense positioning that he has set.
Something you can't lean with your hands down and leap away from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like something like that's like 50% of a striking arsenal.
Yeah. More or less.
Yeah.
Rockhold.
Anyways.
Oh, sorry.
So he is dominating John Howard with his amazing wrestling at the moment, and now they stood up.
Yeah, nothing happened there, really.
I was going to say, I think Rockhold may, in fact, be one of the, perhaps all-time great examples of a fighter who seemed totally unbeatable until finally people started to figure out exactly, oh, wait, watching him lose, this is what happened. Everybody can now do that, you know? And
John Howard is
very, very good, but
John Howard's
chopping down that leg.
He's putting a little bit of a pace on Uriah Hall here, more than I remember. He's staying in his face a bit. Yeah. Yeah, okay. He's done.
That lasted for 2 seconds, and we're back. Now we're at them just watching each other pretend to kickbox.
I think it's that's why these two are helping each other make this a bad fight, because Howard was maybe I'll try getting aggressive. Uriah Hall doesn't like when you try to get aggressive, so he instinctively hit John with a knee to the body, and that made John fight back. And then they both stopped hitting each other, and they're like, "Oh, this is better. This is more enjoyable. Neither of us is getting hit."
And some clinching, and Howard trying to wrestle, and I mean, man, Hall does have great power strikes when he throws them.
Those knees are nasty.
Yeah.
John Howard.
Also,
go on.
Also, they both get to fight their own fight, and a lot of the time, because people think their own fight is a good one. That's naturally.
Yeah.
You kind of don't think if you're fighting the way you want to that it's actually kind of not that great to watch.
Yeah. No, I mean, Uriah Hall, his best fights are almost always categorically fights where he's about to get his ass kicked and is forced to fight a really difficult fight because of it.
Yeah, when something goes wrong, he's getting fucked up by Krzysztof Jotko, he's getting
his toe ripped off
by Whitaker, and he's getting his toe ripped off against Santos, was it?
Yeah, Thiago Santos.
Man, his fight with Robert Whitaker was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was he
super
looked
underrated.
really, really impressive in that fight. It was both dudes just throwing power constantly. Every near miss was a edge of your seat kind of shot. That was a good fight.
And Howard he went back on pressure there for a minute. And credit to Hall, he didn't let him actually land anything. And
why didn't they do Hall Adesanya?
Doesn't that seem like an obvious choice?
Yeah.
Although Hall probably would have gone into that fight thinking he had to wrestle Adesanya, and who knows what actually would.
I mean, the takedown he just hit on John Howard, he would fuck Adesanya's shit up with that.
Oh yeah,
takedown.
I mean, yeah. But who knows just in Uriah Hall's head what happens when he
True.
says, I need to wrestle this guy.
True. I'm having to fight people with this Brad Tavares fight. It's just like, if Tavares loses this, that's a terrible sign.
Yeah,
Like,
it is.
There's no way he should lose a fight to somebody who can't stop a takedown in open space.
Yeah,
He's
he's a good wrestler.
Yeah, he's not a bad wrestler. He may not be like, he's not Chris Weidman or Yoel Romero out there, but
he's a very capable wrestler.
Yeah, he's super capable for the division. He just doesn't do it that much because his style is a back foot defensive kickboxing style.
Yeah. It's not like I can't imagine a fight in which he does lose. It's that, like, to lose this fight, he really has to not take advantage. He has to be so stuck in his ways as a fighter that he can't take advantage of some really obvious.
Yeah, I was willing to bet on that for Marvin Vettori, but Brad Tavares has won way too many fights in the UFC at this point for that me to feel like he's just like, no, I don't do anything other than what I want to do.
Hall would have been good, man. Like, imagine how does Hall's like hatred of bullies and weird insecurity match up with someone like Adesanya?
Yeah.
Like, what does that bring out of Uriah Hall? And I would actually really like to see that.
Yeah, and Hall still has some residual people who believe that, like, the actual Uriah Hall is the one who knocked out Gegard Mousasi, and the one who lost to Gegard Mousasi was just the one who didn't pull the trigger.
Hard guillotine attempt here by
I remember that. Credit to Howard, he's pushing Hall. This is actually
so bad. There are some spots of action here.
Yeah, there are definitely some points where it's not that thrilling, but it's not the worst fight we've seen by any stretch.
It feels like they're trying more than I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's perfectly functional. Like, it's not bad.
I think they got to get to a point in this fight where they both get a little tired and then they both start high-fiving and it's a downward spiral.
No, I remember when Hall knocked out Gegard. My first thought was like, great, this will be the thing that floats Uriah Hall's hype for like the next half decade now.
Yeah.
And now he's knocked out Yotko, so that's
that he was at least that one he was getting thoroughly shit kicked to the point that most people are like, it was cool, but I'm not gonna like.
It has more of an incredible comeback.
He got 10-8'd by Gegard before he got wheel kicked.
Yeah, but it was there wasn't enough like happening in it.
Yeah, he wasn't getting knocked out. He just got nothing done.
Yeah. It's really the Adam Sella and then Gegard Mousasi things that have like floated an entire career of incredibly high expectations.
Remember that time they just like sacrificed Chris Lieben to Uriah Hall? What was that about?
No, I totally blocked it from my mind.
Yeah, they did that.
Yeah, I remember that. The UFC, really loved that.
Was that like the retirement TKO?
Yeah, I think so. He hit him with like a counter right hand. He just embarrassed him because, Lieben's the most hittable man in MMA history, and at least Uriah Hall can hit people who don't know how to stop being hit. So,
yeah, the UFC they've really developed and furthered lately. Unfortunately, that was actually pretty cool.
Whoa!
Damn.
You can see it sometimes, right?
Oh, yeah.
He just like gets a sloppy ass kimmerer and just chucks Howard over his head. Then
it's believable that Uriah Hall is capable of something more. Like, even if I know it won't happen because of who he is, you could definitely buy him as the underdog. It
is how if you're watching for prospects and like, who's going to be a great fighter in the future, what you do is you watch for guys who have a single deep technical skill set, if hopefully, and who can do one thing a fight where you're just like, how the fuck did you do that? I don't know how it's like on Kalaev lost that fight to Paul Craig, but there was a point where he hit a double leg, like he was on his knees and like Craig was coming towards him and he just hit the double leg, like pushing from his knees. It's just like, that's absurd. There's no.
This is weird now.
Like, some nice pressure there.
Yeah.
Like
he's got Hall down.
Yeah. That was nice.
The weird thing is, like, Uriah Hall would have been more effective there if he had just not tried to get away. It's like he's in there, he's hanging with Howard in the clinch, he's landing his own shots. he's like feeling the pressure only when he tries to retreat, and Howard is just swinging at him.
Yeah. I mean,
The
it's
third
one of the
round
great.
better be very boring. Otherwise, I can't trust my own memory anymore because this has not been that bad.
No.
No, it's been fine. But I am very. I've said it before. I'm pretty unconvinced that Melendez Masvidal is actually that bad.
What?
Melendez Masvidal is actually going to be that bad.
Oh yeah, that's fine. Well, we'll figure
You
it
think
out.
it is going to be bad?
No, he says it's not going to be.
I don't think it will be. I think it's going to
Okay.
be. But
This
is a solid
actually
fight.
fun.
Yeah. You've earned your high fives, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Take it.
I mean, they've been putting a serious effort in, a lot more than I remember. Like, my recollection of this fight was not nothing happens, but just neither guy seems interested in fighting.
It's really weird. Like, I have just a memory of John Howard hitting a few takedowns and them high-fiving. That's all I remember.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it hasn't really been that at
all.
all.
I bet part of that is I get the feeling that there's probably some commentary narrative going on here. That if we off mute, be like, I don't know who's in the booth for this fight, but they were probably saying something like, "Oh, I hate to see it when guys are, like high-fiving each other out there and all that. Like, you should save that till afterward and fight." Maybe. I know it's definitely like commentary I've heard before.
I'm trying to figure out what else happened on this night that might have set the tone as well.
Yeah.
McGregor, Holloway, McDonald, Pickett, Michael Johnson, Joe Lozon. Was that fun or bad?
Johnson Lozon. That was just a one-sided shit kicking.
That's right. Johnson just kind of outboxed Lozon.
That was Lozon being totally incapable to figure out how a southpaw worked.
This was the night of
pretty violent
over Overeem.
Yeah, so it was a pretty great violent card with like this fight, which is just. I mean, it's solid. I like seeing people getting low kicked and then low kicking back.
Yeah,
always.
I mean, let's be real. If we weren't watching it for this show, like, this is still not that high quality of a fight that I would be watching it in my free time. But
no.
If the card, I think the context of the card, the commentary, how drunk you are when the fight starts, all of those things do impact your recollection.
Yeah, commentary especially seems to have a whole lot to do with people's perception at the time. Like, they hear, if Joe Rogan or Dominic Cruz or somebody like that is getting way into a narrative, then they start to think of the fight around that narrative.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not listening to commentary, so I can only I can only add a little speculation on that.
I think, so one of the things was this John Howard's first fight back in the UFC? Because he got cut on some bullshit, as far as I can recall. He fought like 3 people, and he lost to them that were all really good, and they cut him.
This was his first fight back. Then he fought and beat CR Bahadurzada.
Yep.
And then he lost 3 in a row. It started with Ryan LaFleur, Brian Ebersol, and Lorenz Larkin.
Yep. Oh, and he beat Cathal Pendred. Oh, we haven't watched that one.
We have to watch that one at some point.
Yeah, how have we not? Have we not?
We must have.
No, I don't think we have.
I think instead we definitely watched Cathal Pendred versus Augusto Montano.
Yeah, we did watch that.
Which is a truly awful, awful fight.
Yes.
Yeah, so he got cut off losses too, and he was coming off 2 straight knockouts. So he got cut off losses to prime Jake Kellenberger, prime Thiago Alves, and Matt Brown.
Yeah, that was. I mean,
he had a good showing in that Brown fight too, didn't he? Didn't Matt get really tired?
29-28, I think.
I thought Brown got tired, and Howard had like a really good 3rd round or something.
That also speaks to an era that we don't really have anymore, of when the UFC actually used to just cut people all the time.
2 losses, you were just gone every time.
The fact that he got 3 fights to lose and then got cut is actually kind of an exception.
Yeah.
Like, nowadays, it's all I think probably largely in part due to the that lawsuit, what is it, the
monopsony lawsuit.
Now what's this? Yeah, what the monopsony lawsuit? The whatever. I'm trying to remember what exactly the term I'm looking for, but whatever. Class action. There we go.
Mm.
That class action lawsuit. I think it's changed. It's made them just be like, we're going to give you a contract and we're going to honor that contract until it runs out, and then we're just not going to give you a new contract. Like, you notice how now all the stories you're hearing from fighters, even like Eddie Alvarez is talking like, I'm not going to fight until I get a new contract. I'm on my last fight, and I'm not getting offered a next contract yet, and so I'm not going to fight until that next contract comes in.
UFC actually has to honor their own contracts more seriously than they used to.
Mm-hmm.
Before they really took advantage of that, we can end the contract whenever we want clause.
Yep. Okay, this is also, I think that here's the entire like problem was that after a bunch of wrestling, they get up and then they're like,
and then they don't throw much.
Yep, and they high-fived and they're grinning and all that.
But also, like, there's fights recently I've watched where, like, Felice Herrig versus Courtney Casey.
And he went for a rolling thunder. Uriah Hall ends the fight going for a fucking rolling thunder.
And a serious flying right hand from John Howard. Like, Felice Herrig, Courtney Casey was similar in that, like, they both had a bunch of shit talking after, like, neither one really. But I, like, watching it recently, I don't remember that being a bad fight because I could tell, like, they were both trying to fight their fight.
And this was a fun fight. Like,
this was the same way. Like, maybe it didn't result in the most exciting matchup, but they were both actually putting in the effort and somehow I had just bought the narrative that neither of them really wanted to.
Even the high-fiving and hand-slapping with 20 seconds left, like, he follows that up with a fucking rolling thunder, and John Howard does a leaping right hand into guard. Like, okay, like, that's an acceptable follow-up to the high-fiving and hand-slapping.
It wasn't so bad at all.
Call it a Superman punch, but it obviously the Doomsday punch.
Doomsday punch, nice. I have to hear just a little bit of the sound from the video. I want to see how the crowd's reacting.
It was Rogan in the booth, by the way. I saw him as we were passing.
The crowd did seem to like that Doomsday got the nod.
Yeah. All right. Now we're main eventing it. And unfortunately, on a slightly up note, and to a fight that may not be that bad, I'm really not. I'm really kind of disappointed by this. So,
it's
Gilbert Melendez versus Jorge Masvidal from Strikeforce. Melendez versus Masvidal. Starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
I really hope this fight is as bad as I remember.
I don't think it's going to be. I remember it being.
I really hope it's not acceptably enjoyable like the last one was. That would be terrible.
Yeah, shut up, Con. Being disingenuous.
I like this show has genuinely gotten me to reevaluate and enjoy a lot of fights.
Oh
yeah, like that's the thing.
That's why I'm willing to do this. And like do the non-depressing every now and then. It's like on the hopes. We don't know if it's going to be depressing or not. We got to find out because we remember it as not great, so we should reevaluate. I'm okay with that, but it has to hurt sometimes.
I'm a Silva Lightus truther ever since we rewatched that fight on this show.
Oh yeah.
Anybody talks about that, I'm like, hey, rewatch it. It's not as bad as you remember.
Yeah.
And nor was the other Melendez fight we watched. What was that? Melendez
Aoki.
Yeah.
Which was
mostly because it was just watching Melendez get to do like really awesome ground and pound and kind of style on Aoki however he wanted.
It was the same as the lightest one. Like it wasn't a contest that maybe you wanted when it actually happened.
Yeah.
But
you're like, whatever happens, this isn't going past 1 or 2 rounds.
Yeah,
like,
you'd be disappointed. But if you're watching it like, okay, it's probably gonna suck, and then you end up just seeing 25 minutes of why we all thought Gilbert Melendez was so great, it's not so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like honestly, I remember this as being one of Gil's best pressure fighting performances. Because he's not a great pressure fighter. I'd never really describe him as such.
He's not
more of a.
He likes to come forward. He's never been like very good at cutting off the cage.
Yeah, okay, in that sense, sure. I mean, otherwise, he's very like his boxing is all leap in, leap out, leap in, leap out, leap in, leap out, and then if he actually commits to going forward, he has to keep running forward. Like if he sets his feet and throws more than 2 punches, it has to be charged in with a takedown behind it to push his opponent against the
He has this really like front foot heavy, bent over stance. Like he just can't throw combinations all that well while pressuring.
Yeah.
So he doesn't mind pressuring, but it's never been. I don't think
he
his.
does pressure. It's how he fights. He's just like it's not what
It's
you would
more
think.
like stay in punching range than it is control the space of the cage.
Exactly. It's not Conor McGregor out there. It's much more of Diego Sanchez style pressuring.
Yeah, if Diego was good.
Yes.
Yeah. That fight I will never stop reevaluating. Anytime anyone mentions that one, I'm like, do you remember how Gilbert fucked Diego's world up for 90% of that fight?
Yeah.
And Masvidal, of course, is the infinite. Masvidal, watching a Masvidal fight after a Uriah Hall fight is very much this like great fighters who show you flashes of amazing things they're capable of, and then are totally willing to just set the fight on cruise control, and be totally pleased with their performance because they were like, no, I did like 3 or 4 great things in that fight, so I won.
Yep.
But like the 15 minutes.
Which I also find to be a relatable mindset. That is how fighting is. Like, you don't know what the hell's happening or how much time has passed. And it's like, yeah, I ate a bunch of jabs, but I remember landing this, and that was probably my round.
Yeah.
That's how your brain works when you're fighting. So I get it.
I mean, it's how your brain works depending on who you are.
Yeah.
Because, like...
It's how my brain works, so that's why it's relatable to me.
There are plenty of people who, like, every little mistake, everything that happens to them is an automatic loss. Like, oh, I got jabbed. Fuck. Well, that, I'm losing now. I got leg kicked. God damn it, Like,
it's tough because, like, it is a good fighting mindset. Like, Masvidal is very calm and doesn't get freaked out. So like he gets hit and he's like, well, it didn't hit me as clean. Like I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
I braced for it. It didn't hurt. So it's kind of a victory in a way.
Yeah.
It's just like it's a good mindset. It's very effective. You just have to know how to like focus yourself with a game plan, I guess.
It's just the difference of somebody like between that and then like somebody like Dominic Cruz, who's very clearly like, any success you have is a problem for me. So I'm going to try to make sure I maintain constant success on my part. Like, it will never be, I will never be letting you have any moment. You know?
So like Melendez is the classic, like we said on multiple occasions, the classic young veteran. And the thing is that the young veteran...
Masvidal or Melendez?
Masvidal.
Masvidal.
Yeah. It's the classic thing of like, you see how you think fighting is from a very young age. And so you can just cling on to that. Like it's a sort of structure of belief you can just build on for a really long time. You can just, because you just say, and like, if you lose a fight, because your belief structure is orthogonal to is slightly off kilter to the actual structures of the sport, you lose a fight and you're just like, that was bullshit. That wasn't fighting.
Yeah.
Like, this is what fighting is. I saw what it was when I was 16.
When I win, that's fighting. When I lose, that's not fighting. Because I never lose fights.
What? Yeah. But like other people are just like, I don't care what happens. I want to win at the end. I want to be the winner. This is what the competitive structures of the sport look like. I mean, that's why, like, I think I've probably said, like, that's why young veterans are so bad at effectively cheating. Have you ever seen any of them be good at cheating? It's because they don't, like, other people are like, I'm going to fill up the structures of the sport as much as so they like overflow. I'm going to go try and break every rule. Whereas your classic young veteran is just like, I'm going to be fighting because this is the closest possible thing to the way I view the sport. But it is not how I view the sport. It is not how I view fighting. It is guys like
guys like Masvidal, Strickland, and there are many others, but they're purists in a way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's also that idea, especially with somebody like Masvidal or like Terrion Ware, where we've talked about it, where it's like these are people who very clearly, for like the bulk of their early career, just sparred and didn't like necessarily maybe get a ton of hard instruction. But
they like it too. Like that's the thing that comes through. You can tell like Jorge Masvidal likes sparring. He likes fighting.
Yeah, and like that enjoyment of that is like, well, as long as I'm in here and I'm doing it, this is fun. Like I'm enjoying this, and so I'm not going to think about changing the process. I'm not going to think about like improving something or like making something extra happen, because this is like, no, this is just where I'm comfortable. Like, this is just comfortable and fine.
Is
It also-
Rory McDonald the king of the young veterans? Has he superseded the category even? Because there's a lot of this that seems to apply to like how he views fighting and how he likes to fight.
he's just a super well trained one. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
I think he hasn't let it. He's someone who's smart enough to not let it become a pathology, because he'll try and win. You know, he will try very hard to win rounds.
Couldn't you imagine someone like
winning
Jorge
rounds.
Masvidal, like if he from the start had been working with someone like Greg Jackson, that he would also become like a Rory Mack? Okay, first round. Oh, no, sorry. We have a little face off first. But you know what I mean? Like McDonald reminds you of a guy like Masvidal, just under the perfect guidance for him as a fighter. So it really works.
They've clearly like seen him and been like, the one thing we need to make sure is that you win.
Here we go.
You win rounds and you do the right stuff.
Round one begins. Cage doors locked. Round one begins any moment now, right? In a few seconds. It begins right now. Sorry, gentlemen.
You can argue though that it hasn't necessarily, just from a pure numbers standpoint, taken Rory McDonald a lot further.
But he's not like he's not as talented as Jorge Masvidal is.
Yeah, he's just not as athletic and
physically tough and athletic. Yeah.
That's probably the big.
It does want to make you see Masvidal, like somebody like Masvidal with the perfect Masvidal mentor, you know, like the person who can really get the best out of him as a fighter.
Yeah. So you just got to trick dudes like that into like, you got to trick them into thinking that winning rounds is the same is as enjoyable as like fighting in the Masvidal way. You got to be like,
and like that's the problem for a lot of these fighters. Unfortunately, it seems like, just from watching their careers and things like that, is that because they get started so young, like by the time they get to a serious training environment and serious camp environment, they're already ingrained. Like everything is already set in stone.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if they could think about fighting this way, if they could if you could trick them into thinking like working this way or that way, then it would really work and make them much better. And it's just like, but this is somebody who was like been in the gym since they were 14, but it was, Bob's crazy MMA factory. Yeah. And you're just not going to get that much more out of them.
Yeah, they're never gonna listen to you by that point. If you try and convince them that, like, you want to just shift your whole mindset slightly over to that direction. Yeah, they're just gonna be like, no, I'm not gonna do it. I mean, that's the thing, is the difference between a Greg Jackson and Firas, is that Firas is someone who would try and change like a basic part of your mindset. I don't think Jackson really does that at all. But,
no,
I think you're right. You're right.
He's a breaker versus a polisher.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Jackson's very much like, let's work with whoever you are, we'll find a way to work with you. Frost is very much like, here is my entire philosophy of constructing like MMA, and we are going to take you and we are going to build you into that philosophy.
Yep. And like once you've learned these 5 basic things, then you can develop how you want. But
Melendez getting tricky with combinations here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like a lot of this is just like Gil's hand speed.
Yeah, Gil's hand speed has always been super underrated.
Yeah. Because like, Masvidal's so used to just slip, counter, spearing people with the jab, especially at lightweight. He's so used to being insulated by his reach and just being hard to hit when he just sticks his left hand out, that like when he's suddenly Gil's in punching range and suddenly punches are coming at him in like 2s and 3s faster than he's seen from anyone else.
He's adjusting to it, though. You can see here he's now like reading the combinations, but you can see the first couple big right hands that landed, he was not expecting.
Well, and that's always been a Masvidal thing too. Early in fights, he's just kind of like, depending on how he shows up, he's often early in fights just kind of like, I don't know what they're gonna do. I guess I'll just see how this fight's gonna go, and then
Yeah, somehow he has never learned. Like he can do the touch you, dodge, counter the counter type thing, but somehow as like the guy who really likes fighting and who has like is like a real technician, has never learned that from the beginning you should probably expect them to counter your shots. So like he starts every fight landing that jab and then gets cracked hard early on almost every single time because he just doesn't expect you to respond. Yeah, sorry, I'm talking over a nasty guillotine attempt.
Yeah, that's a nut. This is a great pressure fighting performance so far from Gilbert. This is him just staying on Masvidal and walking him down and keeping busy
and picking up Masvidal's hands so he can keep kneeing him.
Yeah, that's nice. I always like seeing that kind of evil little trick.
Well, and the thing you have to remember with Jorge Masvidal is that at heart he's the kind of dude who roommates with Colby Covington.
Yep.
Like why can't he fix this stuff? Well, I mean,
he's Melendez is getting his leg chewed up a bit, but he's been very consistent to respond with his right hand anytime Masvidal does land that kick.
Yep.
He's not letting him get away with it.
Is it just me or is my video for this kind of broken?
I cannot tell.
What's happening to you?
I see I have 6 minutes and 20 seconds left in the video.
That's what mine says as well. What does yours say, Phil?
Yep.
Okay, so probably at the start of round 3, we're gonna.
Yeah.
Is it?
So is it a 3 round?
It's a 5-round fight, isn't it?
Yeah. What the fuck is going
on? This is a title defense for Melendez.
Have we just accidentally picked a fight that has a really poorly? You know what? This is maybe excellent MMA depressed us material after all. I take it back.
What is going on?
Let's see, Masvidal. Yeah, 5-round decision. It should be much longer than this. We'll see. When we get to the end of round 2, it's gonna stop, and I don't know why.
We may just have to. We may have to. We know we have to find the event video and restart and queue up.
No, we'll start at the start of round 3, Zane. I can't rewatch.
Not restarting the whole event, but starting at
Okay.
Round 3.
And that's what we'll have to do. And anybody watching a perfect edition of this will just have to pause and wait for us at the start of round 3.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Sorry, y'all. Blame Fight Pass. It's got to end right at the end of round 2 because there are merely 5 minutes remaining.
Yep.
And the round just started.
Well, at least
so
make it easy.
What I remember from this fight, that first round was pretty spicy. But what I remember from this fight is a lot of Masvidal in response to Melendez's success shutting down.
Didn't he broke at least one of his hands, right?
Well, he's only got 2.
Maybe he did. Yeah.
Yeah, but he might have. I don't know if he favored it and broke both of them. So yeah, I'm pretty sure he broke one of his hands.
You break your left hand, so then you start favoring your right.
Yeah. I mean, to truly favor it is when you just start throwing elbows because you can.
I was just making a pun. God damn it! I was just making a pun. It's a pretty good pun, I thought.
All right, now we're definitely stalking into some
See, because now Masvidal doesn't want these exchanges.
Yeah.
The first round was too heated for him. Now he's getting his leg kicks countered, so those are going to go away.
Man, this is making me a little sad to know that Gil's leg is now just still fucked up from that Jeremy Stevens fight.
Yeah.
Maybe not just that though. Let's be real. The man has never checked low kicks.
No.
For a long career full of scraps, he has never stopped those leg kicks. So there might be some accumulated nerve damage there.
Well, and for a lot of fighters, we always the chin is always such an obvious thing to have deteriorate.
Mm-hmm.
But we see all the time different shit goes on other people. It's just not necessarily noticeable, or things go and break in ways that ends up with them getting finished anyway. Yeah. Where you see Henan Barao, like his chin isn't that bad, really. He goes through, full fights getting tagged up. He's not getting knocked out.
He wasn't super durable before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was just a period where like people weren't really succeeding in hitting him.
Yeah. But it's very clear that his confidence in his chin and his confidence in himself has gotten shot, and
he's just like
his cardio
gassing out. Yeah.
Maybe
See,
in part, I think, because of his confidence. But
my theory that's currently developing on this fight is that it is some good pressure by Melendez, but maybe it ends up feeling more like a great pressuring performance because increasingly as the fight goes on, when Melendez stops pressuring, which he always does periodically, he's never comfortable just pressuring nonstop.
yeah, no.
When he stops as the fight goes on, I think Masvidal does less and less.
Yeah.
So it just feels like Melendez is pressuring all the time.
Yeah. It is.
Masvidal,
we're seeing like still nice bursts of offense from Masvidal.
Oh, yeah. He just staged his first rally of this round and landed some good ones. But you can tell he's also getting more defensive, and Melendez is like, he's really sticking to, if the game plan was don't let him get away with anything, he is really sticking to, like, he's countering every single time he can.
Yeah, this is definitely a very good, consistent performance from Melendez.
Melendez is great, man. It really sucks that he never got the chance to like prove it on the UFC scale. He was really a top-notch fighter in his prime.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like his prime was kind of around this fight and I think the best Gilbert we ever saw was against Kawajiri.
Yeah.
He just obliterates him.
Savage ground and pound, just like beautiful boxing, wrestling, everything was perfect in that fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can tell, like, the mark of a fighter who was really great in their prime, Melendez is still giving people tough fights as a clearly past it old pro.
Yep.
He's still not getting just thrashed. Even when his body like falls apart 2 minutes into the fight, he stays in there and makes the other guy work for it the whole time.
Yeah. But the advantage of being someone like Masvidal is that losses don't break your confidence because you don't care about them.
Yeah, true.
Like, I mean, sure, they'd care about them a lot, but like, it's not like, so like Johnny Hendricks is the classic example of someone to me who is a competitor more than a fighter, who went into it because it was something that was like wrestling, but it wasn't like, it was like wrestling. It was something he could do and something that he was good at. And when he started losing at it, he immediately started falling apart in like 6 different ways.
He stopped liking it.
Like, but like with someone like Melendez or like, Masvidal or
that just ended.
Go on, Phil. We'll be searching for the full edition.
Jeremy Stevens, for example, is an example of someone who just really doesn't necessarily, probably likes winning a lot, but also loves just loves fighting.
Yeah,
just loves it more than he loves winning.
He can consistently turn that switch. Like once he starts getting beaten up, it's like, oh, okay, all right, fighting time. You can tell.
Yeah. And so it's made him someone who's just literally just gotten better over his entire career. Like,
yeah, it's true.
A long career. Anyway, so we've been fucked up and fucked over by.
Why would they have?
Are you guys looking?
I'm not seeing the event come up.
It'd be so fun, so good if we just had to end the episode.
That would be one of our.
Having watched 2 rounds of the final fight.
Well, okay, I'm gonna Google it because.
Let's see. The event was
Melendez versus Masvidal. There we are. You just have to Google search the actual. You have to Google it. You can't do it in Fight Pass because
far too obvious. And
okay, where I'll find the right timing and I'll tell you guys where to. Okay. Why is it not showing me what the rounds are? It's not showing me like a clock or anything.
Oh, it wasn't for that one either. I think maybe at this time Strikeforce didn't have a round clock.
Okay, here's the end of round 2, or here's round 2 starting. We want round 3, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Did you find the video, Phil?
No,
Google
search,
Melendez Masvidal fight pass.
couldn't get
Yeah.
it. Oh, wait a minute. I've got it in Fight Pass, I think.
You can also, if you
versus
search the
Masvidal.
names on
Oh, no.
Google and put site : and then UFC.tv, it'll also only bring up results from Fight Pass.
Okay, this I must be too far. God damn it. Where are we now? Well, that's round 2.
All right, yeah, I'm in. Come.
Okay, this is definitely round 1 I'm looking at for right now.
Okay, I actually think that their actual Melendez Masvidal video
Oh, you think it's fucked up?
is checked out at the same time because I'm seeing 5 minutes left at the end of round 1. So, yep.
The event ends.
Ain't that a bitch?
Why? It must have been a bad fight. I mean, it must have been as bad as I remember because they have scrubbed it from the internet.
You know it was. No, it wasn't.
It can't have been
I
because
think
it was
we've
pretty
established
good.
anything. We've established anything. It's that Gilbert Melendez should really never have been on any of our. On like anything we've watched.
At least as far as the first 10 minutes
of
of that fight went, it was actually, as I should have expected, just impressive shit from Gil Melendez.
Yep.
Well, what an ending.
Yeah. In some ways better than watching.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that was good. I'm impressed by how dumb and shitty that was.
Can we make this
Not
like
just that it fucked up, but that it made us look up another copy of it, which was also fucked up. Like, it's some good shit. Well done.
Can we use this sort of like, now that we've established that this really did happen, like when we do finally end up watching Cindy Dandois versus Alexis Davis, we can pretend that only one round of it is available on Fight Pass? That would be, oh no, the video just ends.
How could we?
No,
sorry, guys.
I'm going to make sure that one stretches into infinity.
There's a full 20 minutes of super slow-mo replays at the end.
It's slow mode into 2 hours, and your computer will not shut off, or you can't do anything with your computer until the video stops playing.
This is going to be the next like level of ransomware. It's just going to be like your computer is locked down, and you just have to watch like
slow-mo Dandois Davis.
Slow-mo Dandois Davis, or
I'm here to feed the Leviathan. You know, I'm gonna like show up with like a pinhead mask, and you know, like what sights I have to show you.
Just like the scene in Event Horizon when he's like, "Do you see?" And it's just like you see brief like shots of like Matt Riddle stand up,
or Manhunter,
or the front kick from what's her face,
like
from Rinda Kai, of course.
It'll be, I'll do it Manhunter style, like the slide projector, like
yeah. Emanuel, do you see?
Cindy Dandois with her hands up. Cindy Dandois throws a punch. Do you see?
Do you see? Cindy Dandois' chin is tucked. Cindy Dandois receives a punch. Do you see? Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. We should, the next edition of Depress Us, we shouldn't mention it, but we should have those Clockwork Orange eyelid openers.
There you go.
And all be strapped into our chairs and just don't mention it. Just act like it's a normal app.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's actually just these are all on, like, I've got them all sketched out as eventual evolutions for the show over time.
As it eventually becomes, the equivalent of the MMA equivalent of Saw. Just like Zane, and Zane slips further into insanity.
You have to fish this key out of your own forearm, or else you'll have to watch round 3.
If we actually had a budget and we were all actually in the same, and a studio that we were in the same place, I would legitimately do the like Clockwork Orange. Like, no, This is how we do. This is the show.
All right, crowdfund us, people. Send in your money now if you want to see us really, really be tortured for a web series.
Oh Lord! On that note, thanks for tuning in. You can
So
find me
funny.
on Twitter at DZaneSimon. You can find Connor on Twitter at BoxingBush. That's BUSCH. You can find Phil on Twitter at Evil Greg Jackson, just like the Jackson Wink coach, but evil. You can find all 3 of us over at BloodyElbow.com, doing our various week in, week out writing things. And you can find our shows over on YouTube at MMANation.com, DOTCOM, all spelled out. You should subscribe to that. That's where you get all the latest Bloody Elbow shows, videos, analysis, all the stuff we do week in, week out. Give us a like on YouTube, the thumbs up down there. Liking our stuff, subscribing to it helps so much. That's how YouTube does all their algorithms of what they decide to share to who and when and all that. So the more you do it, the more we're, not paid. But we'll be back next week to do regular UFC coverage. We got UFC 224 coming up around the corner. Amanda Nunez versus Raquel Pennington. And so we'll have the vivisection and Care Don't Care and If I Did It and Knuckle Up or not Knuckle Up, but Heavy Hands and all the other stuff. All our normal shows. So stay tuned for all that. And I'm going to be doing a combination Invicta Ryzen Vivi coming up here in just a few minutes. So stay tuned for that as well. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
The Gooch.